Hello boxing fans, this is a special video on politics in boxing. I'm not going to waste any time now, I'm just going to get straight into it. We're going to start with the last 3 HBO events. Firstly, I just want to talk about HBO for a second, and I think that HBO are the most biased media production company out there. I really agree, I think that they are the most biased people out there. Now, they all have their own agenda, and so firstly I'm going to talk about last weekend's fight with Marquez versus Manny Pacquiao. And almost every real boxing fan, anyone who understands boxing, understands that that was pretty much, even though it was a close fight, I can agree with that, it was a robbery. Marquez did the cleaner shots, cleaner footwork, cleaner jab. He controlled the fight with jab. He did everything correctly. He took away Manny's, well, it seems to be his only weapon, being his left hand, and made him look very one-dimensional. Everything about Manny was off. His left hand was totally off. Even his right hand was off. There was nothing that was there. His footwork didn't seem great. He couldn't get his foot outside of Manny Pacquiao's. That's something that Amir Khan brought up. He couldn't get his foot on the outside. So if he couldn't get his foot on the outside, he couldn't control the fight. And that's something I totally agree with, because I noticed that the whole way through the fight as well. And at the end, it was totally a robbery. Manny Pacquiao did not deserve to win. He knew it himself, knew it. His whole corner knew it. Even his wife knew it. And she was sitting ringside. She had her head down. Everyone knew it. Everyone knew it, mate. I'm not taking it. Everyone knew it. I had money on Pacquiao to win. And even though I won money, he still lost. So now I'm going to give you some cross-cultural comparisons, okay? Now let's start with David Haye versus Nikolai Valuev. David Haye was very conservative with his punches. He also counterpunched like Marquez. And at the end of the fight, he did the more work, he landed the cleaner shot, and he got the decision. Rightly or wrongly, you tell me. But don't forget, this is going to affect how Marquez and his fight ended. So who won that fight, honestly? You tell me. Secondly, Carl Froch versus Andre Dirrell. Even though that Marquez was more positive than Andre Dirrell, even though he was very defensive, people say that fight was really close. Now, who won that fight? Now, what I've just pointed out to you shows double standards. No one is going to say David Haye, Andre Dirrell and Marquez deserve to win all 3 fights, even though they were all very similar in terms of style and the fact that they all shown their opposition to look very one-dimensional, even though in reality they are all not. Now, this is for everyone else who's actually listening to this. Can anyone actually say that that was not a political decision that Manny Pacquiao got? Now, what I'm pointing out is, if Manny Pacquiao loses this fight, any super fight between Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao is finished. It cannot work, because Floyd has already beat that man, and if that man beats if that man beats Pacquiao, then what does it prove? There's no point. It does not prove nothing. Now, I've just got to add in, if you think that there's no way that a promoter such as Bob Arum, who is probably a billionaire, can fix a match, you don't think he can fix a match, I think you're totally delusional. I'm just going to let you into a little secret of boxing, and people are on the payroll. They are. It's a fact. Referees are on the payroll to make fights even and sometimes biased. HBO would be on the payroll because the promoters can dictate which fights they want to sell, which ones they don't, and they can plug whoever they want to win the fight. It's true, that's how people are influenced by fights. That's how sometimes close fights become really wide fights, and wide fights all of a sudden become close fights. You see what I'm saying? Now, doctors would also be on the payroll, and I'll come into that a bit later. Now, there is no doubt in my mind that these people who judged this fight in some way were on the payroll. They must have been. There is no way that a fight that, even though I admit was close, and there was an aggressor, and there was a guy being conservative, there is no way that someone who lands the better punches, controls the fight with the jab, takes away the opposition's #1 weapon, can lose a fight when he, in the eyes of, let's say, 90% of the population right now. I'm taking that from my Pacquiao Marquez post-fight video. I would say 90% of those people agreed with me on that. Let's say 90% saw it the way I see it. How is that the 3 judges cannot? Maybe I just don't understand boxing, or maybe it was fixed. Moving on now, and I'm moving to Chad Dawson versus Bernard Hopkins. This is the second HBO pay-per-view fight that was supposed to be the biggest thing in light heavyweight boxing, on the same night as another title fight, which we will bring into it later, by the way. But let's just point this out. Bernard Hopkins didn't particularly want this fight, in my opinion. Chad Dawson's I think he's just better because Bernard Hopkins is older. He's losing everything. He's losing his weapons. He's still a good boxer. I'm not going to can't take away from him. He's still one of the best boxers of all time. But right now, at this stage in his career, he's there for the taking against Chad Dawson. Now, Chad Dawson went out, and Bernard Hopkins tried to bully him all automatically. That's what he does. He's a bully. The thing is, he could not bully Badshot Dawson, but because Dawson was bigger. And as he tried to jump on top of Dawson went, "You're not bullying me, son," and threw him to the floor. Now, I don't give a shit if that was right or wrong. The point was, Bernard Hopkins is the dirtiest player in the game. People, you cannot forget this. He's the dirtiest player in the game. Think Joe Calzaghe. The dirty stuff that happened in that fight, yeah, he was dirty and he got away with a lot of the stuff he did. Like the low blow incident, it was acting, and people thought he was acting again, and I still do. And I'll go on to why. He was rolling around on his shoulder, on his elbow. Now, alright, you're rolling around on the part that you think is dislocated. It was his fucking collarbone or something, yeah? Now, later on, he gets up, he goes, when he's realised he's lost the fight, by the way, he gets up, goes, "I could have continued." And then Max Kellerman goes over and says, "Can you show me your collarbone or whatever it is that you think is dislocated?" And he rolled it forward. Now, have you ever dislocated anything in your life? You'll be in fucking agony. Fuck my life. Come round to the program, people. He would have put all the pressure from his back, his shoulders, everywhere onto that muscle group, and he didn't even go, come on. He didn't even go, ow. He was acting that one out. People say, but there's stuff on the internet, x-rays. Yeah? Do you think doctors are not on the payroll? They could have got someone else who's done it, took it, and then went, "Look, this is him, promise you this is him." Doctors are on the payroll. How do you think people get through, I don't know, PED tests and stuff? Doctors are on the payroll. On the night, we had 2 light heavyweight title fights, world title fights, that were broadcasted on the same evening. Okay, they were basically competing against each other. You had on one side of the pond, you had obviously Bernard Hopkins versus Badshot Dawson, and I don't know how that did on pay-per-view. Hopefully it did shit, because it was a shit fight. I'm not gonna lie. And then on the other hand, you had Nathan Cleverly versus Tony Bellew. Now, one of these fights is basically fight of the year, and the other one is flop of the year. Now, which one is which? Obviously, Cleverly versus Bellew is fight of the year, and why is that? Because they haven't got these big greedy promoters with their hands in the kitty or the pot, whatever you want to say. Point being, I've noticed that the better matches are all at domestic, just going up to world title level instead of at this world title level, because at that point there's no point, they're all fixed. So now moving on again, we're going to the last HBO pay-per-view thing that was out, and that was Mayweather versus Victor Ortiz. And I'm not going to say that Mayweather was a dick for doing what he did, because even though I don't agree with it, he did it, and it was in the rules, so it doesn't matter. I'm not saying Victor Ortiz was a dick for doing what he did, because he did it, even though it was against the rules, he got punished for it, he got his points deduction, and then afterwards he got knocked out. The point was, not that it was bad, it was just the controversy, and the fact that there's now a fight on... Now, does anyone else think this is weird? There's a fight now that Mayweather's making on the 5th of May, okay, which I think is a Hispanic holiday, so it's like what is it? It's Mexico Day or some shit like that. I don't know. It's someone tell me. Someone write down in the comment section what it is. It's basically a Mexican national holiday. So basically, Mayweather's a smart guy, and I like Mayweather for this and his promotional team. What they do is they'll pick a date such as that, and they'll fight a Mexican boxer or a guy of Mexican descent. Don't believe me? When did they fight Victor Ortiz? It was a Mexican holiday. When did they fight Oscar De La Hoya? It was this day 4 years ago. So he does do it like that. So he's going to fight a guy of Mexican descent. Now, does anyone else think that, because Victor Ortiz didn't seem afterwards like too bothered that he lost because of that, he was like smiling, "Oh, well, I just made $4 million, man." Fuck off, right? He didn't seem too bothered. Does anyone think there's a possibility that this is a rematch on a Mexican holiday? So basically anyone in Mexico will have a day off, they'll be spending money on beers, spending money on the boxing because they love boxing in Mexico. And even people in America might be like taking a day off because it's a Mexican holiday. I don't know how they work out in America. Right, they'll be wanting to watch the boxing anyway. So it makes sense it being a Mexican guy, doesn't it? Now honestly, who thinks rematch? I do. Sounds better than Floyd Mayweather versus Eric Morales, doesn't it? Or does it? So now, how can we stop this political bias, all these promoters, how can we stop all this? And I think there's only one way for this to go, because you can't cut out promoters totally, because the guys coming up won't ever be known. You can't do it. What you've got to do is, I think, this is my opinion, I think that whenever a boxer enters this pound for pound fairyland, he's got to cut himself away from all these promoters. He's got to do it alone. He's got to do it on his own. Because he's got a bigger name. He's got a huge name anyway. Point is, he could sell a fight just on his name. He could, let's be honest, Pacquiao, Mayweather, Sergio Martinez, they could walk into any TV channel anywhere in the world and say, "I want my fight on your channel." It could be fucking health and beauty channel for all I care. They could say, I want my fight on your channel, and they wouldn't say no. Don't be stupid. Would they say no? No, of course they wouldn't, right? They don't need these promoters. Mayweather's doing it alone, so he doesn't need these promoters. Khan's got his own promotional company because he's waiting for the time he's big enough in America, so he doesn't have to use people like Golden Boy Promotions to plug his name around. Pacquiao does not need Arum. He's got a big enough name anyway. Pacquiao's probably more well known than Arum anyway. Do you see where I'm going with this? That is the only way. Once you get a huge name and you're like the #1 in your division, you don't need promoters anymore. You can do it yourself, plug it yourself. That is the only way to stop the political bias, all this bullshit on HBO. That is the only way. Because even if Arum brought in someone like, I don't know, Brandon Rios, let's say, because he's fights with him, and puts him against Manny Pacquiao, okay, at £140, and Manny Pacquiao is not being plugged by HBO. As if people are going to see what HBO say, oh, Brandon Rios is doing brilliantly there. Oh my god, what a shot by Brandon Rios. Oh my god, Brandon Rios is down. See what I mean? It don't work like that once that the better fighter isn't getting plugged. Once the better fighter doesn't get plugged, he doesn't need it. He doesn't need it. That's the point. He won't need it. So that's the only way to get it out. Other people, come on, tell me, write down in the comment section what you think, how we can help this political bias, how we can stop it. This sport's becoming a worldwide sport now. It's not just in America anymore. It's becoming a worldwide sport, and we need to stop this bias towards like these boxers from certain promotional companies, let's say like Top Rank. We need to stop it. It needs to stop because it's ruining the boxing. It's really grinding on my boxing nerves, and I love boxing.